In the opening scene, Andre is playing with his children on the beach while his wife, Annie, a caterer, records them. Andre calls Annie to join them and she drops the camera to do so. She holds Andre while their son, Milo, kicks the ball into the net, scoring a goal. His sister and older child, Ella, cheers him on as their father carries them. Annie picks up the camera and wonders if it captured anything. Andre joins her and she asks if he is enjoying the last day of vacation, to which he replies that it was the best day of his life, something he says every day. She then wraps up the video because the battery of the camera is low and prepares to return home. He then runs back to the beach. Andre tells Annie that he wants to go for another round of boating and she agrees to meet him at home. He kisses her and tells her that he loves her before walking away. In the next scene, Annie and the children are sitting at the dining table. Milo asks his mom for some cookies, but she tells him to wait for his dad. Annie is waiting patiently at the window for Andre to return. She is worried about the storm, which is getting heavier, and the fact that it is very dark. She leaves a voicemail for him as his number wasn't going through. Suddenly, the landline rings and she picks it up, thinking it's Andre, but it's not him. She collapses on the floor due to what she's told on the phone and starts sobbing. Andre is deceased. 2 years later, Annie is sitting outside, deep in thought, when her daughter Ella rushes out to tell her that the cookies are burning. Annie rushes inside the house and takes the cookies out of the oven. Ella stands behind her and Annie asks what she wants. She then remembers that she had promised to take Ella and her friend, Maddie, to the mall. Seeing that her mom is busy, Ella decides to lie that Maddie texted her to say that she won't be able to make it. Annie suggests that she invites Maddie to the house to prepare for soccer tryouts, but Ella informs her that she is not applying. She wants Annie to get her tickets to the comic fest instead, but Annie refuses to get her the tickets until she's old enough to go. Annie asks Ella to join her in baking the cookies since she's already there and Ella isn't going anywhere. Ella reluctantly accepts and Annie reminds her that she used to love baking with her. However, Ella mentions that it's because she used to love baking. In the next scene, Annie, Milo, and Ella pack the boxes of cookies into the car. She is delivering the cookies at an event. Milo complains that he is hungry and Annie promises to buy him something to eat on their way, but Milo insists on having a cookie instead. Annie explains that the cookies are for work, but Milo and Ella compare her to Andre, their late dad, saying that if he was around, he would have given them a cookie and taken Ella to a comic fest. Annie admits that she also wishes their dad was present, but unfortunately, he is not. Milo then asks if they could stop by the beach since it's on their way to work. She refuses at first, but later agrees after some persuasion by Ella. In the next scene, Annie and the children go to the beach to reminisce about the times they spent with Andre. It has been 2 years since Andre's demise and Annie cannot seem to believe it. Milo asks Annie if they can watch the last video of their dad on the beach, but she refuses because they are already late. He begs her and she gives in. They kneel on the beach and play the video. After the video ends, they stand up and walk away as Ella reprimands her mother for allowing her to do the haircut she had in the video. They get to the car and are ready to go. Annie tries to start the car but to no avail. She decides to call a cab, allowing Milo to play on the beach for 5 minutes. Soon, the cab arrives and Annie calls out for him as she transfers the boxes of cookies to the cab, accompanied by Ella. Just then, a car tries to park and almost hits them. The spook duo throws the boxes of cookies in the air in shock, scattering the cookies on the beach floor. The man, James, an extremely successful businessman, comes out to apologize, but Annie is vexed because her paycheck is now decorating the beach floor. James apologizes, but Annie complains about him being on the phone when he almost hit them. He claims it was on speaker, so it was technically legal, but his reply makes her even angrier. She wonders if he is a lawyer since he seems to know what is legal, but he isn't a lawyer. The man begs to pay for the damages he has caused, but Annie refuses. Milo then offers him a cookie, claiming that his mom's cookies are the best. Annie reluctantly refuses his money, which surprises him as no one has ever refused his money before. The man then begs to pay for the cab, but Annie refuses again. He insists and pays for the cab as she enters the vehicle, but she returns it to him. The man can only smile in amusement as the cab drives away. Upon arriving at the event, Milo asks if the house belongs to Batman as it is magnificent. Once inside, they place the scattered boxes of cookies on the kitchen counter. A woman named Erica greets them. She notices the scattered boxes and asks Ella and Milo to go play in a room since she wants to speak with their mother. Ella refuses at first but later leaves with Milo. After the children leave, she inquires about what happened to make the cookies appear that way, and Annie explains the story to her. In the next scene, James walks into the event hall and gives his mother a peck on her cheek. She wants to introduce him to a young girl whom she thinks would make a perfect wife for him. However, James disagrees, believing that he is capable of finding a wife himself. Despite this, his mother insists that he should take life seriously, but he tells her that his financial life is stable and he need not worry. Nonetheless, his aunt still insists that he should have a wife, instead of just focusing on his work. As they walk together, his mother tells him that she wants to have grandchildren, but not when she is too old. She introduces him to Susan and immediately starts a conversation about his travels around the world. Then, his mother leaves him with Susan, and he picks up a drink and cheers with her. She reveals that she is a lifestyle blogger. She takes his drink and asks him to lift it, then takes a picture, saying that if she didn't post, people would think she is deceased. She then explains that since she is a lifestyle blogger, she is allowed to travel just like he did. James picks up a random name and says his friend was looking for him before he leaves Susan. Annie is in the kitchen, attempting to make a different dessert, since the previous one turned out bad. Erica wants her to keep calm and expand the menu for her bakery. However, she reminds her that it's not going to happen anymore. As they talk, she hears a familiar voice and upon looking, she discovers that it's the voice of James, the guy who scattered her cookies on the floor. She is shocked that it's the same party he was coming to. Once again, he apologizes for the cookies. He picks one up but realizes it is now dirty and apologizes once more. James offers to buy all the ingredients, but Annie refuses because it would feel like charity. He shows her his collection of sweets and cookies and she asks if he has any rosemary. He takes her to his rosemary garden, where she picks some for her dessert. Shortly after, James joins her in the kitchen to help prepare the dessert. Annie tells James that the rosemary and baking chip will give the dessert a nice taste of campfire. James tastes it and likes it. Annie asks for more baking chips as she tells James that he needs to marry someone who can cook, to which he agrees. They enter the store to pick the things they want and James bumps into her. He notices the ring on her finger and apologizes for not realizing that she is married. However, she reveals that she was married but her husband passed away 2 years ago. In the next scene, Erica and Annie pack their things into the car as Ella and Milo come out. Milo wants to continue playing but Ella wants to go home. Annie suddenly remembers that their car is still out there, but Erica reveals that James has already fixed the car. This shocks her and she feels like she owes him a favor. In the next scene, Annie sits at the dining table reading the last message she sent to her husband. She decides to call him after 2 years of no contact and hears him call her name. As she watches a video of her husband, it starts cracking and she hears the word time before the phone shuts down. The next morning, Milo and Ella ask Annie for pancakes, just like their dad used to make. Erica enters the house to return the chocolate shaver and notices Annie's countenance. She thinks Ella is avoiding her and not telling her things. They move to the porch and discuss Annie's mood, which has lightened since she met James. She reveals that she needs a friend in her life and James is a nice person. And she needs a subject in her life and James right now seems like a good subject. James messages Erica telling her to inform Annie she had forgotten her ring on the kitchen counter. Erica reveals that James would be able to drop off the package on his way back from work. He asked for Annie's address, but Annie couldn't help feeling uncomfortable about the situation. After all, why go through the hassle of having someone else drop off the package when Erica could easily do it herself? However, Erica had already told him to drop by. As Erica is getting ready to leave, she notices James' car pulling up. Annie starts rushing and is a bit disorganized as she hurries inside her home. Erica goes on her way. While meeting James on the way, Erica suggests that he take things slow and easy with Annie, considering she has a soft spot for both of them. James looks a bit confused but smiles nonetheless. It's always good to be considerate towards others' feelings and Erica's suggestion is a gentle reminder of that. In the next scene, there's a knock on the door and James appears with a Grammy bar, catching Annie's attention. She wonders if he is trying to buy her forgiveness and he admits that he's trying to do just that. She then informs him that her forgiveness is worth the Grammy bar. She lets him in and he compliments the homey look of the house but Annie thinks it's messy. She asks for her ring and just as he is about to bring it out, Milo comes out to greet him. James and Milo bump fists. Milo then takes him to the living room to show him his toys, while Ella is drawing. James picks up a comic book and asks if it belongs to him, but Ella claims that it is hers. They then begin an argument over a character in the book. Milo also leads James outside where he tricks him to make a rocket ship out of boxes and tape. James is initially tricked into building the rocket ship, but he soon realizes that he has always wanted to build one, and feels happy to have fulfilled this dream. As they discuss their past as children outside, Ella joins them and informs James that he is correct about the comic character. James explains that he loves galactic comics and Ella smiles. Annie mentions that it's been a while since they've seen Ella smile and that it makes her beautiful. James compliments Annie that she is beautiful too and her daughter got it from her. When they go back into the house, Annie thanks him again for what he has done for Milo. James then asks her if she still wants to have a bakery, revealing that Erica had told him about it. However, she replies with a firm no, stating that it was something she had wanted to do before, but not anymore. James reveals that he is an investor, adding that he can invest in her bakery. But Annie politely refuses his offer. After returning the ring, James leaves. Annie picks up her wedding photo with a sad expression and touches Andre's face. She hears a knock on the door and thinks it's James. She wonders if he has forgotten something, but to her surprise, it is Erica who had arrived a while ago. She questions Erica on why she had told James about the bakery idea, as it is something she wanted to do with Andre. However, Erica tells her not to miss the opportunity, because James is an investor. In the next scene, Ella and Mandy take a walk on the beach. Mandy suggests that Ella should participate in the soccer tryout which is supposed to be held the following week. Ella declines because she hasn't played football since her dad passed away. Mandy reminds her that she has been saying no to everything, even when she asks her to go to a summer party. However, Ella still refuses. In the next scene, James and his mother are at a restaurant. He orders food, but his mother is not pleased because it is too cheap. She reveals that she has invited Susan for dinner that night, which annoys James. In the next scene, Annie, Ella, and Milo are discussing what to eat for dinner when they hear a knock at the door. Annie goes to answer the door and discovers that it is James. She asks him why he is there, noticing the package in his hand. She discovers that Milo has sent James a message from Annie's phone without her knowledge. Annie warns her son not to do it again, adding that he should have asked first. Milo apologizes immediately and she forgives him with a smile. James then gives Milo a board to use to build his space station, which makes him happy and he goes outside to play with it. James enters the kitchen and asks if he can assist with the cooking, and Annie throws a spaghetti bundle at him. A few moments later, they sit outside eating while Ella seems to be missing from the table. Despite this, everyone seems happy. Milo expresses his desire to keep playing with his PlayStation and pretends to be a rocket official, preparing for takeoff as his mother counts down. When Milo leaves, Annie comments that it has been a long time since she has eaten outside. James also shares that he enjoys coming to their house because it is beautiful, which makes Annie feel nervous. She suggests that it is time for her to join Milo because it is his bedtime already. Annie packs up the plate and leaves after James thanks her for the food. James picks up the cup and enters the kitchen, dropping it on the slab. He notices a picture of Andre on his way out and comments that her husband is a lucky person. He notices the cup and decides to wash all the dishes. When he is done, Annie enters, surprised that he has not left. She informs him that she isn't ready for a relationship. James informs her that he likes being around her and her kids and that she is a good person. They lean in to kiss, but they're interrupted by Annie's phone that starts ringing. It's a phone call from Andre. Quite strange that her deceased husband is calling her. Annie wants to answer the call, but James begs her not to go. She leaves anyway and sits on her bed upstairs, trying to hear what Andre is saying, but it keeps on saying yes before the call ends. Annie sits on the floor crying profusely. Could her deceased husband be watching over her? Is he trying to give her important advice? She wipes her tears and goes to meet James downstairs. James apologizes for taking things too quickly and she apologizes for leaving him there. He asks her out on a date, but she rejects him, saying she isn't ready for a date. James then suggests that they hang out as friends and tells her the time. He leaves immediately, not wanting to know her answer. The next day, Annie meets James at his yacht. He offers her a ride on it, but she declines because she doesn't like boats, especially after what happened with her husband. He then suggests they walk and asks if she is scared of him. She clarifies that she is not scared, but just trying to avoid a relationship. He understands, and that is the reason he just wants to be friends. He wonders why she's hesitant and she explains that she is a broken woman. James tries to make her feel better, but Annie doesn't seem satisfied with his response. During their conversation, James asks Annie if she will let him open a bakery for her as an official friend. She declines at first, but he persists, telling her that he has found a good place for the bakery. After pleading with her, she eventually agrees. The next day, Annie stands at the front of the bakery with James. She enters and admires it, saying that she loves it. They eventually end up painting the shop. The two of them spend a lot of time on it, which Milo seems to like because Annie is very happy. Finally, it's the opening of the bakery, and Annie introduces the name Milo and Ella Bakery. Milo is very satisfied, feeling that he is already popular. Ella isn't sexually happy because her father isn't around. James welcomes his mom to the bakery, and Annie thanks him again. James's mother wonders why Annie came to thank her son, and Annie explains that he is the bakery benefactor, which changes his mom's mood. Erica takes James away, leaving Annie with his mom. James's mother decides to go to a coffee shop, but Annie insists that she stays, adding that the cakes are nice and that James loves it, but his mother doesn't change her mind. His mother goes on to say that she wonders what James's girlfriend, Susan, would say about the bakery, which sets Annie off. As soon as James's mom leaves, he joins Annie, who confronts him about his relationship with Susan. Annie thinks James should have at least told her if he had a girlfriend, since they are friends. James denies having any feelings for Susan and explains that his mother wants them to be together, but he's against it. Meanwhile, Ella, who's been watching them from behind, becomes so upset that she ends up breaking a plate. After the party, Annie, James, and Milo dance a victory dance, but Ella isn't interested. Annie asks her to join in, but she refuses, revealing that she wants to go home. Even when James offers to take them out for a victory celebration, Ella still insists on going home. This frustrates Annie. In the next scene, James, Annie, and the children are celebrating their victory. When James asks Ella a question, she replies almost rudely. Annoyed by Ella's behavior, Annie takes her to a corner and talks to her, telling her to apologize to James. Later, Annie apologizes to James for Ella's behavior, believing she has the wrong idea regarding their relationship. Surprisingly, James confesses that he likes her and kisses her. Unknown to them, Ella sees this and is angry as she watches them. She goes downstairs with her brother to tell their mother that she wants to go to her friend's house for a sleepover. Annie is happy because it seems like Ella is finally ready to go out, so she agrees. In the next scene, Annie returns home and puts Milo to bed before meeting James. They converse for a while, and during their talk, Annie confesses that she had pledged to never love anyone other than Andre. James reminds her that she has already fallen in love with him, and then they share a kiss. However, as they are kissing, Annie accidentally calls out Andre's name, which hurts James. Just then, Annie's phone rings. In the next scene, Mandy's parents realize that Ella is missing and quickly report the situation to the police. James contacts a private investigator to work on finding information about Ella's whereabouts. Annie is crying and dialing Andre's number, begging him to help her. James advises Annie to stop calling as she seems distressed and frantic. But she insists that she has reached him once before and she can reach him again. Seeing that she is not giving up, he agrees to join her in calling Andre's number. Meanwhile, Ella is wandering around in an unknown area. James, suspecting that Ella may have gone to a comic book festival, promises Annie that he would bring Ella back. He goes to the comic fest and finds Ella, who seems happy to be there. He pleads with her to go home with him, but she refuses, saying that he is trying to replace her father. James denies this and informs her that her mother is very sad. Ella then asks if he wants an annoying stepdaughter, which makes him laugh. He mentions that even if she acts rudely, he still likes her. He allows her to stay at the comic fest, where they meet his friend, who is the author of the book Ella loves. He introduces Ella to him and signs the book for Ella, which brightens her mood even more. After finding out that James is close friends with the author and asks James why he didn't tell her, James explains that she had not given him time to speak with her. In the next scene, Annie embraces Ella, thanking James for bringing her home safely. Ella finally reveals to her mother that she is comfortable with James, so she has no issue with their relationship. Annie then hugs James, but he notices her distressed expression and asks if everything is okay. She confesses that she is afraid of losing anyone, and she doesn't want to feel that way again. James understands and leaves. As he leaves, Ella blames herself for causing problems in her mother's relationship with James, but Annie thinks that she shouldn't have let him into their lives in the first place. Ella nods and leaves, feeling sorry and upset at her mother. After Ella leaves, Annie sits on the table and cries bitterly. The next day, James meets his mother at a restaurant, where she asks if he is angry with her for telling Annie about Susan. James mentions to her that Susan was never in the picture. His mother tries to convince him that he doesn't know what it means to take care of other people's children, but he responds to her boldly, saying she doesn't know what he wants. He wants a normal life, a messy one at that, and he does not want to pretend like his mother. Finally, his mother understands what he really wants and agrees to support him. In the next scene, James walks to Annie's shop. He asks her if she could let Ella and Milo visit him, and she agrees since they miss him. James wears a pained smile as she wonders if she has spoken to Andre, which changes her mood. He apologizes and tries to change the subject, but she takes her leave. In the next scene, Annie is looking at her phone when Ella joins her outside. Ella thinks that what her mother is doing is very stupid. However, she warns Ella about the tone she spoke to her with. Ella tells her mother that she was happy when she was with James, and now she seems lost. This makes Annie reveal that she had noticed that Ella looks miserable when James is around, but Ella mentions that it's because she knows that if Annie breaks up with James, she would look more lost. But now, she is tired of worrying about her mom. Annie hugs her, telling her not to worry about her. She apologizes to her daughter, revealing that Andre would want her to be happy. Her daughter also replies that Andre would also want Annie to be happy. After she leaves, Annie starts sobbing as she looks at her phone and tries calling Andre again. But as always, it goes to voicemail. She goes upstairs to inform Ella that she is going out. Annie drives to the beach and plays the last video she had recorded of Andre. She starts talking, imagining that Andre is with her, and asks for his help with raising their children. Suddenly she hears Andre's voice from the phone. He mentions James and bids her farewell, and she erupts in tears. The phone finally shuts down as she says goodbye. Annie stands to go home but is shocked when she sees James. She wonders why he is there, and he reveals that Ella sent him her location. They talk for a while and end up hugging. In the last scene, James drives Annie. She has finally realized that all this while, she has been receiving communication and phone calls from her late husband, encouraging her to follow her heart. So, it is time for her to move on. She apologizes for pushing him away and then asks if they could start anew. They come out of the car and kiss, proclaiming their love for each other.